Today, I'm going to list 2 assignments that will be due from 28th of April. And each of the assignments would be worth 10 marks. That is number 1. Number 2, the assignment should be brought to the exam, to the final exam, because you will be examined in the exam on some amendments to those 2 assignments. So I will discuss a little bit about the assignment before moving on to discussing the graphical user interface and the application programmer's interface to the graphics environment and the application reference that you use. That will be the conclusion. Before we do that, I just want to let the class know that today's class is well documented. First of all, there are a number of examples that you are supposed to take a look at in doing your assignments. One of them is my full design file on the bench, on this bench in engineering, which is a design of a static structure. You have that. You have my file. The reason I'm giving you my file is that you can actually project and watch a movie as you take the step-by-step of the development. I think that could be efficient and be useful to some of you. You are at different levels, so depends on what your level is. It is possible that there may be things you can learn from my design. And your first assignment, so first of all, your first assignment is to help you understand how to move from bodies to components. In our 3-dimensional models, we have created bodies and components. You will recall that bodies are physical objects that constitute your design. They are models of physical objects that constitute your design. They are just models. It is you that will make them to be as close to the physical objects they are trying to represent as possible. And what you will do to make that happen is to work on the relationship between the body and the other bodies that appear in your design. When you have a situation where one body can enter another body, that is not a model of reality, and that shows that there's something wrong with your design. Because you know, one critical rule in reality is that 2 solids cannot occupy the same space at the same time. So at a situation where you have, if I have these 2 glasses and I move one and they pass through each other, then that shows that my graphics is not sufficiently realistic. So you must place constraints in those objects so that they cannot pass through each other. There may be other constraints, but those are just so fundamental. Remember that to make 2-dimensional sketches using 3-dimensional body creators such as extrude, revolve, loft, sweep. I've used examples to show this to you, except revolve, which is even easier than the others. I'm sure some of you have done that on your own. You could also directly create 3D bodies with no recourse to 2-dimensional sketching. So some of those things are possible. You can do 3D straight, but most of the time you need 2D sketch to do your 3-dimensional solid models. Sometimes you also can modify existing bodies by adding features or removing by cutting. You can cut through. You remember a situation like last week when we had a simple rectangular extrusion, but we can cut a circle through a path in it and thereby modifying the body. We can do many of such things. So you can modify existing bodies by adding features. One of the features you can add is a cut. Logically, components are a collection of bodies and other drawing elements. One of the things they contain would be the relationship between bodies that constitute the component. So you may have several bodies constituting a component, but inside the component itself, there is a log of the relationships between those bodies. So whereas a body might be the visual representation. A component is the real thing that makes it realistic. A collection of bodies without structural relationships is not very useful. Relationships include constraints that model the real-world interactions between the bodies. One central issue is that two bodies do not occupy the same Euclidean space of points at the same time. Put another way, bodies do not cross one another. Among other functions, components allow you to implement the constraints in an orderly fashion that makes the visual representation of your design behave in a realistic way. As we have seen, Vision 360 uses joints to remove all degrees of freedom and allow you to include them incrementally using allowable joint motions. A rigid joint, for example, freezes all degrees of freedom, while a sliding joint releases one of the 6. The goal of assignment 1 is to ensure that you can create 3D bodies from several methods, that you can make a single design containing several parts into a single object with proper relationships. You use the example of the bench, which you are given. Here, the design contains parts such as slab, backrest, armrest that are reinforced concrete castings, as well as support at the base support. You can make these after copying my example, and if you have not yet done so, some people I know have already gone beyond this. Use the rigid joints to define their relationship. These parts are arrayed together as one whole with several components. You can use as-built joints by creating all of them in the final location they are supposed to be. Remember, the reinforcements are created using parts and sweeps. Design is what we are to do in assignment 1 is to design a simple structure that is made up of at least 5 components and put them together with a relationship. It doesn't have to be a bench, it can be a table, it can be anything that you have in your environment, or it can be something you are creating on your own. So it is possible for you to have a homework assignment that's your own design from scratch. So that is something you can do. But you are responsible for the dimensions, you are responsible for the motions, you are responsible for the relationships, for the placement, for the assembly, for everything. The only thing is that I want to see at least 5 different components in that structure, and you do not need to do anything more than the rigid constraint, and you can use as-built joint using a single drawing for all of that. And when you finish that, you submit to your class rep. Your class rep takes record of it, and your class rep in submitting the assignments, let me just see whether I have that written out. Before I even go in, so let's see. So that is that. So you do your sketches. Oh, sorry, I have. Okay, so you do your sketches and fully dimensioned from measurements you have made. It's a good idea. Own your own measuring equipment. You should have, by now you should have your tapes, your caliper, digital caliper. These things are not expensive. I just got this digital caliper from I think Jumia. This costs 4,000 naira, and it can take small measurements in digital form, and it can give you accurate measurement in millimeters or inches as you choose, centimeters, millimeters, or inches, and that could be used to measure things. You can also get a normal tape or a laser tape. All these things are available in the local shops that are online, so you can buy them. Like I said, this was just 4,000 naira. So it's not too expensive and it's very useful. So that if you want to take measurement, you go with your caliper and your tapes and take your measurement. Make components and create their relationships using as-built joints, because everything is in a single design file and designed at their final locations. The due date is Friday, April 28, 2023. Class reps includes a separate list of submissions that we shall check. So when we are accepting the submission, we will check and the class rep will sign that those are the things that are submitted that were ready. So if your submission, your homework is not with the class rep where he's submitting, too bad. So you have enough time now. There will be no complaints entertained. I am tired of students spending several months arguing and haggling with me about their current grades, whether they submitted or they didn't submit. It seems as if that is the pastime of lazy students. They will not do the work during the term, and then at the end of the term, they are just going to be haggling about marks till the end of another term. That will not happen in this term. So, and this assignment 1 will be worth 10 marks. Not only so, you are supposed to bring it to the final exam, because I shall reserve the right to ask questions based on what you submitted that you can modify and expand in your file and will be graded on that again. So if you don't do this, if you don't submit on time, if we take any late submission by 1 day or 2, you shall have lost half your marks by the time we are accepting it. And if you take 2 days, 0. But still bring this into a final exam, because the fact that you don't want to be punished twice. Today is I think 18th, and you have 10 full days to submit on time, and you are told all of these things ahead of time. So if you still miss your submission, then I don't think you can blame anyone. So that is it for assignment 1.